Good morning, quiet time. Rhonda here in all her glory. Listen, I just wanted to share something this morning. So I finished my Lisa Harper book yesterday, and she, in the Psalms, 119 was one of her Psalms that she covered in her book. And I happened to be in Psalm 119 in my daily reader. And in one of her little nugget boxes or whatever they're called, she used synonyms for the word scripture. And some of those were like law, commandments, regulations, government, or not government, governing, or just different words that we see in scripture. Let me just read something that it just completely changed the feeling and the way my heart received. I know this is going to sound silly, but anyway, I'm going to share it because this is right here happening now. So in Psalm 119 and verse 104 is actually where it stopped me. So I'm going to just read, and I'm going to insert the word scripture to every one of the words that pops up as from one of the ones that she suggested, like instruction, commands, commandments, guide. And so I'm going to use the word scripture, and I just want you to listen and see if it doesn't hit a little different. Psalm 119, starting at verse 97. Oh, how I love your scripture. I think about them all day long. Your scripture makes me wiser than my enemies, for they are my constant guide. You have more insight than my teachers, for I am always thinking of your scripture. I am even wiser than my elders, for I have kept your scripture. I have refused to walk on any evil path so that I may remain obedient to your scripture. I haven't turned away from your scripture, for you have taught me well. How sweet your scriptures taste to me. They are sweeter than honey. Your scriptures give me understanding. No wonder I hate every false way of life. Your scripture is a lamp to guide my feet and a light for my path. I've promised it once and I'll promise it again. I will obey your scripture, your righteous scriptures. I have suffered much, O Lord. Restore my life again as you have promised. Lord, accept my offering of praise and teach me your scriptures. My life constantly hangs in the balance, but I will not stop obeying your scriptures. The wicked have set their traps for me, but I will not turn from your scriptures. Your scriptures are my treasure. They are my heart's delight. I am determined to keep your scriptures to the very end. So it read completely different to me, inserting scripture as instead of the other synonyms, because the words that I was inserting scripture for are instruction, laws, decrees, commandments, your word, regulations, commandments, regulations, instruction. So anyway, it just made me stop for a minute and asked, why did they use all those different synonyms to the word scripture? Why not just use the word scripture? Because sometimes I think what happens is the way we interpret our words now is it sounds like, oh, well, this is just so putting me, in a fence. I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, I have to follow those instructions and those rules and those regulations and those commandments, and I have to, and those instructions. And it makes it sound so like forced or something, like you have to do it this way. So I think a lot of people use that. This is kind of a harsh way to say it, but I think a lot of people will use that as, well, you're just not allowed to do anything. It's just too strict. But when you take the actual word scripture, which these words are replacing, are synonyms of, it's God's loving word. It is his word. It's his teaching. It's his offering of a way of life that is going to be best suited for you. So I think sometimes if you actually do word searches, I haven't done many word searches at all. This was actually just maybe the first one or two that I've done, and it was because it was in her book, and she actually did the word search and showed the results. So there was a lot of work that I didn't have to do. I just read the nuggets that she shared. But when I read it this morning, reflecting back on how Lisa had shared it in her book, I got a completely different reception of that psalm. So I thought I would share that with you. Try it sometime. Look up the word scripture. Look at all the synonyms and then as you're reading the word, when you come across that word, put the word scripture in there and see if it just doesn't hit differently. It hits in a way of almost like a comfort, like this is my truth for you. This is what I'm teaching you. This is my truth in spirit. And take away the harsh words that I think have been translated in there in so many different ways. Why not just use the word scripture? I don't get it. But anyway, I thought I would share that this morning because it sat differently for me. And I'm just curious to know that if you try this out, if it's not something that you kind of felt a little different about in your quiet time. Okay, continuing on.